Welcome. In this tutorial, we are building a powerful multi-agent weatherbot using Google's Agent Development Kit, also known as ADK. So this project takes what you learned in the Quickstart and transform it into a complete intelligent multi-agent workflow. We'll start with a simple agent that can fetch weather information using a Python tool. It will be a very simple tool. Then we'll progressively enhance it, adding multiple LM models like Gemini, GPT, and Claude, introducing specialized subagents, enabling intelligent delegation, giving agents memory, and embedding safety guardrails. So before we begin, ensure you have basic Python knowledge, familiarity with LLMs, and of course your API keys ready. So in this example, I'll be using Gemini API key, but you are free to choose your own API key for any LLM model of your choice. We'll walk you through tool creation, agent design, setting up the runner and session service, and interacting with the agents using async calls. You'll see how agent uses the GetWeather tool, handles errors gracefully, and generates contextual responses. By the end of this tutorial, you'll have a fully functional multi-agent weatherbot that can collaborate, remember user inputs, maintain safe behavior, and operate across various LLMs, all orchestrated through ADK. Okay, let's jump in. We will be using the tutorials from the ADK GitHub that you see over here, and also put this link in the description. So we'll take this as a reference. So we'll be, as I mentioned, that we'll be creating a weatherbot team, and you can visit my previous video on ADK, just a basic ADK, or any other tutorial on ADK before starting this. So in this tutorial, you'll see uh, we'll see tool definition and usage, multi LLM flexibility, where it will utilize multiple LLMs. Like you can have more than one LLMs, and via light LLM integration, it will allow us to choose the best model for each task. So agent delegation and collaboration. Then we'll have session state for memory, safety guardrails with callback. So I'll making series of videos on this. So here in this video, I'll be completing the first step, first basic agent I'll be creating. Okay, so straight away let's jump into the code part. So here we have to install at least two libraries for now. One is Google ADK and Light LLM. Since I'll be using a UV package manager, but you can use any package manager of your choice. So I'll open VS Code, and in the VS Code, I can select this folder ADK agent, or you can have any folder of your choice. So I'll open a new terminal, and as I mentioned, I'll be using UV package manager. So I'll say UV init, initialize a UV project. So you see here the project is initialized. Then I will create a virtual environment by issuing the command uvvnv. So a virtual environment is created. So I have to activate that. So I'll just copy this, paste it, and there we go. So we have activated the virtual environment. Now here we have to install this package. If you see, these are the two packages I have to install, Google ADK and Light LLM. So I'll go back to VS Code and just say UV add, sorry, I have to copy that so that there is no spelling mistake, though it is a very simple spelling. So, and Light LLM. So the packages will get installed. So while the package is getting installed, I'll come here and just copy this remaining code. So first part of the code is importing all the libraries, and you can see here we are also logging, taking the logging library so that we can log errors or anything we want to log. So I'll just copy this and I will open main.py. So I'll paste the code before this main function. So this, this is the first step. All the dependencies are installed. Now we go for the next step. So in the next step, you have to uh, you have to set the variables, the environment variables for Google API key, Open API key, Claude keys, and you can even have further keys as well for the LLM of your choice. I'll just copy this. I'll paste it. So just after that, as a next step, I'll paste it over here. So let me write it down something like this as a comment so that we can we can track like what steps we have performed. So let me name it as step 1 or step 2 rather, and just paste it. Now to read these environment variables, you also have to import .env. Okay, sorry, from .env you have to import load from .env, import load.env. So this is required, and then you have to call this function load.env. That's it. And now you can read your environment variables. And then also you have to create one environment variable files, because it is not a good idea to write your API key directly over here. So I'll be using only Google API key, but I'll not be using any other keys. But it is a good idea to have multiple keys so that it can decide which LLM is best for which task. So here I'll just comment this out for the time being. So I'll create one env file, .env file, and in this env file I'll just mention Google API key, and I'll put my keys over here. So here you can paste your keys. Okay, so you paste your Google key over here. So I'll not be recording this part over here. Whatever keys you have to paste it over here. So I'll simply paste my key, but I'll not record this part since key is a confidential thing. So you can use your key. So after entering my actual key, I've closed this environment file, come back to the main file, and now I go to the next step. So the next step is to define model constants for easier use. So what model you're using, it is better if you can define a constant. So this will be picked up by ADK. So I'll copy it, and here again I'll say step 3, and there we go. So after taking this model constant, now we'll create our first agent, the basic weather lookup. At least for this video, we'll complete our first agent, and then we have series of videos for different steps. Okay, so this you see on the right side, your first agent basic weather lookup. This is what we are going to complete in this video. Then next part will be completing these different steps as well. So here it says that let's begin by building the fundamental component of our weather bot, a single agent capable of performing specific tasks, looking at weather information, and this involves creating two core pieces, and which is obviously a tool and an agent. So tool will be just a hard-coded value will be returning. Okay, it will be a weather lookup tool, and the agent, which is the AI brain that will develop it using ADK. So let's define the tool first. So this is the definition of the tool, and you see it's all hard coded over here. Okay. So we don't have any information for Paris. So if there is no information present, it should return a error message that sorry, I don't have the weather information for that city. Whichever city's information is not there, it will return an error message. So we have information for only these three cities. So let's copy this and we paste it over here. So let's name this as step 4, though this is not required, just as I mentioned, just for tracking the steps. So it says print get weather New York, print get weather Paris. So what I'll do is I'll just take this and print it over here in the main function to invoke the tool. Okay, so here I'll just comment it out. Let's run it and see. I'll say UV run. So there you go. It has invoked the tool for Paris. You see, it is returning an error message saying, sorry, I don't have the information for Paris because there is no value for Paris. Next step is to create the agent. So here, those constant which I have defined, I'll assign it to agent model. So let me copy this code and we come here and we just mention is step 5. Just copy this. So you see different part of agent. We have to give the name of the agent, then the model, which model we are using. So we'll be using model Gemini Flash, 2 Flash. And this we have already defined over here what it is. Somewhere over here, yeah, we have defined it. The which model we are assigning it to. So it's Gemini 2 Flash. And then description. So this description helps in identifying what this agent is capable of when other agent communicates with this. And instruction is giving instruction to this very agent. What is the task it has to do? So the prompt, the instruction which is mentioned over here is you are a helpful weather assistant. When the user asks for the weather in a specific city, use the get weather tool to find the information. And if it returns an error, then you inform the user politely. If the tool is successful, present the weather report clearly. And in tools attribute, we give the list of tools. So here we have only one tool, so which is called get underscore weather, which we have already defined. So we are just providing that tool. But you can even give a list of tools as this is a list. And then print is given just to print out like what is the agent created using model and so and so. So it's a very simple agent. And one more thing I'd like to mention over here is like this is the folder structure, and if we are giving the name like this, then it will actually try to call the agent from within the site package, and there will be a mismatch and it will return an error. So by default, there are two ways. The easiest way is to just name it as agents. Okay, so just name it as agents. That's it. And the other way is to like mention the proper directory name. That is actually the best practice. Now let's go to the next step. So the next step to set up runner and session service. So session service is responsible for managing conversation history and state for different users session. So it will use in-memory session service is what we will use for now for the sake of simplicity, as that's a very simple implementation that will store everything in memory. But there are other ways of other ways of implementing it as well. And then we will have a runner. So this is the engine that will orchestrate the interaction flow, where it takes user inputs and then route it to the prepared agent. And it also manages calls to LLM and tools based on whatever is the agent's logic. Okay, it handles session updates via the session service and yields events representing the progress of the interaction. And so this is the code. As you see, session service is nothing but in-memory session service. It's an object of in-memory session service. Then app name we can give, user ID we can take any, and session ID we can take any. And then we create a session using this session service. And then we just, this is just to print out the app name, user ID and session ID. And then we create a runner, instance of a runner. And runner will take the parameter agent, so agent name we give, then app name and session service. That's it. So let's copy this, and as a next step, say step 6, we just paste this. Then next part is to interact with the agent. So see, there are difference, like if you are creating this in a notebook or creating this in the standalone python.py file. Okay, so I'll tell you what the difference is. So first let's copy this code. For interacting with agent, and just paste it over here, which is your step 7. Okay, so here there are some changes you have to make, otherwise you will run into an error. So one of the change over here is, like you see, await. So here await will not work. This is for notebook. Okay, so you have to remove this await. And instead of this, you have to wrap it in async io dot run. Okay, but if you are using a notebook, you can go ahead with that await command. Await. Okay, so we are done with that, and I think we are good till here, and I hope you're with me. Now next, we'll run the conversation. We'll define a run conversation async function where we'll call this agent async, which we have defined over here, okay, on different queries. So just copy this, and this will be the next step. This is step 8. Just paste it. Okay, so it says await run conversation. This is again for the notebook, so comment this out. It's mentioned also over here that uncomment the following line if running as a standard Python script. So you are running it as a standard Python script. So we'll just copy this part and print it, paste it over here, and I'll comment this out. Comment this also, and comment this, and let me correct this. It will be within a try block. That's it. And now we can run it. Simply we can run it. So I'll clear this. So see, this is also wrapped in a async io.run. We are not giving away because we are not using notebook. So it will call run conversation, and run conversation consists of series of calls. So first call is what is the weather like in London? How about Paris? As you know that for London the information is there. For Paris the information is not there. So it will return an error, and weather for New York it should return. So let us run and see if it runs fine. So I just maximize it. and I'll say UV run main.py. So we see it is returning the response. Okay. So for the user query, what is the weather like in London? It has returned the response. The weather in London is cloudy with a temperature of 15 degrees centigrade. For Paris, since Paris is not there in the response in that tool, there is no data for Paris, so it returns, I'm sorry, I didn't have the information for Paris. And for New York, again, it has the information, so it returns that information. Well, so that's it. So we have completed this step one. So if you like this video, then do write me in comment what you think, any kind of feedback you have, and I'll come up with the next video on the next step, and so on we'll be completing this series. So thank you for watching. Bye bye.